Sin has a very long shadow. Hey, and welcome to The Whole Truth, where I am taking you through the entire Bible from Genesis all the way to Revelation without skipping anything. Today it's 2 Samuel chapter 13, and we pick up in verse 22. We saw yesterday, or in the video before this one, depending on when you're watching it, we saw as a guy named Amnon raped his sister, and it was a tragic scene. And nothing was done, not from anyone in leadership of the country. Okay, so Israel is run by King David. King David didn't do anything about what his son had done, and neither did anyone else. They just kind of let it go. And Absalom was the girl. Her name was Tamar. It's her brother. He said, well, hold your peace. Years go by, literally years. And then a few years later, Absalom takes his revenge. And that's what we read today. For us in reading, it just went from one verse to the next verse, from verse 21 to verse 22. So pick up with me. It's 2 Samuel chapter 13 and then verse 22. And don't forget, if you want to get the study notes, you can grab those. They're on Patreon. But what I'd love to do right now is just funnel everybody to the website. I have been coding, oh my word, the things that are happening in my life. Anyways, and so I have cataloged each of these videos over on thewholetruthbiblestudy.com. Go to the study library, and then you will see Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, and now 2 Samuel. Click where it says 2 Samuel, and then scroll down. You'll see all of the videos. You'll see their title. You'll see the reference of the chapter and verse from that book, and then you'll see the study notes right there with them on these later ones. That's Joshua and forward. You'll see all the study notes included. That has been a lot of work. So funnel yourself that direction. TheWholeTruthBibleStudy.com. Go to the study library and go to 2 Samuel, and then grab the study notes from there. It'll take you over to Patreon, but I'm just doing that for continuity because I'm already over on Patreon with those notes. And I'm planning on putting all of those notes in the middle of everything else that I'm doing. I'm putting all those notes together and trying to form them into kind of a book that you can get, a study book, a study resource that you can get with these videos. Not quite there yet, but I have all the written work, so there's that. Anyways, too much about that. It's 2 Samuel chapter 13, find verse 22. If you don't go get the study notes, that's okay. I hope you'll still read along with me. Those study notes are a nice supplement, though. And by the way, they're free. I would love for you to support the channel, but they're totally free. I said enough, and then I talked more about it. That's called rambling. All right, it's 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 22. Read the first two verses, just 22 and 23. Let's read them together. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very angry, and Absalom spoke to his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shears in Baal Hazor, which is near Ephraim. And so Absalom invited all the king's sons. And then Absalom came to the king and said, kindly note, your servant has sheep shears. Please let the king and his servants go with your servant. But the king said to Absalom, no, my son, let us not all go now, lest we be a burden to you. And then he urged him, but he would not go, and he blessed him. Then Absalom said, if not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said to him, why should he go with you? But Absalom urged him, and so he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. I said a couple of verses, and then I just kept on going. But let's talk about the first 2 verses to get us going. So after Amnon violated Tamar and nothing was done about it, Absalom hates Amnon. Okay, that's what we see. 2 years goes by, and it says specifically that Absalom, he told Tamar to hold her peace. It's almost as if from the beginning he was like, hold your peace, I'll do something about this. That's kind of what it seems like he was doing. He told her to hold her peace, and he did. He didn't say anything good or bad for the next, I believe it was 2 years. I mean, 2 years is a long time. I'm coming up just this weekend on my 1 year wedding anniversary. And so, 2 years is a long time for somebody to be completely silent. And there's a couple of parts about that silence. I need you to understand, just because someone is being silent about something, just because someone is not saying something, doesn't mean that they're at peace with that thing that they're not talking about. And especially when it comes to this type, this level, this gravity of hurt and pain that Amnon had caused. I mean, Absalom loved his sister. And even in the ancient world, even in a world that women didn't have rights the same way that men do today, or the same way that women do today, like, they didn't have equal rights. That wasn't a thing. Rape was still wrong, and to take advantage of a woman was still wrong. And Amnon, if you remember, not only did he take advantage of her, but then the moment he had her and he got what he wanted, then he kicks her out of the house. It was awful. The whole scene is this awful scene. And by the way, this coming from her own brother, stepbrother, but still her half brother, I should say. But still, it's still a matter of what's happening with this young woman. And Absalom sees it, and he's so angry about it, but he doesn't say anything. He just harbors that all in his heart. Can I just say it this way? Silence rarely brings healing. Silence rarely brings any sort of healing to our situations. Now, in verses 24 through 29, I read on through 27. Let me finish up reading through 29. Now, Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, "Watch now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, strike Amnon, then kill him. Do not be afraid. Have I not commanded you, be courageous and valiant?" And so the servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and each one got on his mule and fled. So Absalom, who's been holding on to all this hatred and holding on to all of this anger, it's time for him to shear the sheeps. And so he's a sheep shearer, and he needs to, or he's a shepherd, and he needs to go and shear the sheep. I mean, he's the king's son, but he obviously has sheep, and they obviously have some sort of a festival, some sort of a time that they come together. These are manners and customs of the ancient world, of the Old Testament, and this is a time when they obviously would come together and they would celebrate. We have days like this. We have things like Memorial Day and Labor Day and 4th of July. These are days that we celebrate certain things. We have Thanksgiving Day. That's what it is. It's a day of Thanksgiving. They're going to shear the sheep, and they're going to bring everybody along. Absalom invites everybody to come and tells King David, and says, "David, I want you to come. Dad, I want you to come, and all your sons to come as well." Because remember, David has multiple wives. He has lots of sons and lots of daughters. And Absalom says everybody is invited to the feast. Well, David doesn't take Absalom up on that. David says, no, we're not all going to come. We'll all be a burden to you. But Absalom keeps pressing, and David insists he's not going to go. Absalom, as best as we can tell, has an idea. And he says to the king, "Well, if you're not going to come, at least make sure Amnon comes." Now, there's an interesting thing that happens, because David obviously knows that something is wrong. David obviously knows that something is up, because David questions that and says, "Why do you want Amnon to go?" Why do you think David's questioning that? David is a real person. He really has a real brain in his head. And David went, "Wait a second. Why are you trying to get Amnon to go? We all know that you hate Amnon." Now, Absalom has said nothing good or bad, but everybody knows. Why does everybody know? Check this out. Because no one did anything. Everybody knows what is going on with Amnon and Absalom, these two brothers. Everybody knows that there's a hatred from Absalom to Amnon, because everybody knows, including David, that Amnon violated his sister, Absalom's sister, and nobody did anything about it. Okay. There's something I would say to you in this moment right now, which is this: that I think from an earthly standpoint, I think from a man's standpoint, this feels very justified to us. If my sister, I don't have an earthly sister in that way, like a birth sister, but I do have people I would consider sisters. I have sister-in-laws that I would consider those are my sisters, and I have sisters in Christ. And if someone harmed them or if someone harmed one of my daughters, I cannot promise that I would not do exactly what Absalom did. Uh, a little time goes by, let everyone feel the safety of it, and then he strikes. That's what Absalom did. That's what he did to his brother Amnon. He invites everybody to the feast. David allows for Amnon to go. Everybody is there. And Absalom, you can see something. He takes zero consideration that all the other brothers are there and everyone else is there. David and his men were not there. I can't even promise that if David and his men were there, that Absalom wouldn't have done the exact same thing. It seems like he took the occasion that David wasn't going to be there, but he's pretty bold in this. He waits when they're all drinking wine, when they're all merry. Imagine it's like a New Year's Eve party. You know, everybody's sitting there. Apparently they're all drinking wine enough that his heart is merry from the wine. Now, I'm not a big fan of alcoholic wine. As a matter of fact, I hate it. But that's beyond the point for the moment. That they're all sitting around, they're drinking a little bit, they've got a little wine in them, they're a little happy. And when everything is seemingly going well, Absalom had already told his servants, this is what we read, when I say strike, do not hesitate. You strike Amnon and kill him in front of everybody. This is cold-blooded murder. This is cold-blooded revenge. Now, that feels very natural if I think about what Amnon did to Tamar. But here is a reality. Revenge is not for us. Vengeance is of the Lord. Now, I know right now there's probably someone who's going to take that very personally and they're going to say, wait a minute, I did this because. Listen, you can justify. I've already told you, here I am, a pastor of a church. I am a dad. I love to help people and I do not like to hurt people. I don't even like to hurt little animals. I got videos right now. I got short videos where I saved a stupid mouse and kept it in my house for a week just because I didn't want to put it in a kill trap. I don't like to harm things, but if you harm somebody I love, I can't promise that I wouldn't do something to take vengeance. And I'm also willing to say that's a sin. You're not supposed to do that. Now, was it a sin for David to let it go? Yes. David should have done something. David was the king. David should have exacted justice on his son Amnon when this happened in the first place, but he didn't. So there's multiple wrongdoings here, but hear my heart when I say this. Just because someone else has done something wrong, if you're not in a place of authority, if you're not in a place where you have the right to do something, to enact justice, then you're enacting justice. What you see as justice is revenge. And it steps outside the bounds of what justice is supposed to be, because now you just have two sins. You have your sin mixed with their sin. I know I've talked about this in a video before. I've said this before, but my mom used to say, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing, two wrongs don't make a right. Yesterday, my daughter was upstairs playing a game, and I can't remember what somebody told her to do. We were just goofing around. Everybody's being silly. And I'm going to say, I think it was something to the tune, because I'll do this often. I think somebody did something, and I will totally ingest. All the kids know it's ingest. It's just a joke. I'll look at everybody and I'll go, just hit him, punch him back. And nobody's doing that in the house. It's an inside joke. I probably shouldn't even share that with you. Somebody's going to say, you shouldn't say that. Anyways, whatever. And so I said that, and she looked at me and she goes, what's that saying that you say about right things? And I was like, right thing? What are you talking about? She's 8. And she was like, you say that thing about when something's right. And I went, do you mean two wrongs don't make a right? And she said, yeah, that's it. And that's the truth. Two wrongs don't make a right. What Absalom did was took vengeance and justice into his own hands, and he tried to exact that justice. But here's the deal. It's not like he did it in the moment that this happened with Amnon. It's not like he did this the moment that he found out. He plotted this. He waited for a time when they're all sitting around the table. You see, he went from taking I want to see justice administered to this guy, and he takes it to a new level. And he takes it to what level? The level of revenge. And now revenge says, I'm going to strike him in front of everybody. I'm going to traumatize everybody else around me. I'm going to, who knows what could have been started out of that. The other brothers could have jumped in. The other servants could have jumped in. It could have been that, this started a huge fight with Amnon, and then they ended up fighting each other. What I'm saying is that Absalom has compiled one sin on top of another sin. Here's what I wrote down in the study notes. Revenge may feel righteous in the moment, but it always multiplies sorrow rather than healing it. Let that sink in. It always multiplies sorrow rather than healing it. All right, look at verses 30 through 33 with me. And it came to pass while they were on the way that news came to David, saying, Absalom has killed all the king's sons, and not one of them is left. And so the king arose and tore his garments and lay on the ground, and all his servants stood by him with their clothes torn. And then Jonadab, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, answered and said, Let not the Lord suppose that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons, for only Amnon is dead. For by the command of Absalom, this has been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. And now, therefore, let not my lord the king take this thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for only Amnon is dead. Now, word comes back to David, and now we just see even more multiplied wrong. When word gets back to David, someone has brought word, and this is what they said, that Absalom has rose up and killed all of David's sons, that they were all sitting there. David had allowed his sons to go to Absalom's sheep shearing party, and when they all got there, Absalom rose up and killed every one of them. He had his servants. They started a big bloodbath, and everybody died. All the servants died. David, for a moment, feels like Job. He falls to the ground. He tears his clothes. He thinks all of his children have died at the hands of Absalom. And all the people start wailing and mourning with him. Somebody had communicated to Jonadab that it was actually only Amnon. So you've got Jonadab, David's brother, comes to David and says, David, it's not everybody. It's only the one son. And we all know why he did it. We all know why Absalom killed Amnon. Obviously, he did it because Amnon had violated Tamar all those years ago, 2 years ago, that because of what happened. And so he's trying to bring comfort to David, to say to David, oh, well, it's only one son that has died. But may I just tell you this? That's not great comfort. That's not a great thing to use to comfort somebody. At least it's only for David. He's now had a son violate a daughter. There's that. By the way, this is all just a couple of years after he lost the baby after his sin with Bathsheba. Remember, there's that fourfold thing. Remember David said, when he thought it was somebody who stole a sheep, he said, I'm going to make that man pay it back fourfold, because that's what the Bible calls for, is that fourfold. That's what the scriptures called for, was a fourfold justice, a fourfold return. David lost the baby. After David lost the baby, and remember he was fasting and mourning for the baby, now Amnon has violated his own sister. Now we're on to the third. Absalom now killed Amnon. And so David has a daughter who's been violated, a son who violated that daughter, and now another son who killed the son who violated his daughter. It's compiling one on top of the next on top of the next. It's the words of Nathan the prophet who came to David after he had sinned with Bathsheba. The words of Nathan the prophet are coming true. The sword will not depart from your house. That's what's happening. Well, look at what happens now in verse 34. Then Absalom fled, and the young man who was keeping watch lifted his eyes and looked, and there were many people were coming from the road of the hillside behind him. And Jonadab said to the king, Look, the king's sons are coming. As your servant said, so it is. And so it was, as soon as he had finished speaking, that the king's sons indeed came, and they lifted up their voices and wept. Also the king and all his servants wept very bitterly. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And King David longed to go to Absalom, for he had been comforted concerning Amnon, because he was dead. So now Absalom, after killing Amnon, because Amnon had violated Tamar, Absalom runs off. He goes to the king of Geshur. Now that actually makes sense because his mother is the king of Geshur, Geshur's daughter. So the king of Geshur is related as kin to Absalom. And he stays there for the next 3 years. Listen, sin removes people from more than just God. It does separate you from God. Sin separates you from God, but it also separates you from family and from home. And hear this, sin separates you from peace. It creates a life of spiritual and emotional and physical exile. That is where sin will lead you. Even sin that you feel like you've justified. This is that, as I started the video, I said that sin has a long shadow. And look at this long shadow of sin. It started with David. And Bathsheba. The baby died. Then there's Amnon and violating his sister. Now there's Absalom and murdering his brother. It just keeps going. It just keeps multiplying, one on top of the next, on top of the next. When sin rules the heart, separation becomes the normal condition of life. Now, if that doesn't feel a little convicting, you might want to hear it again. When sin rules the heart, separation becomes the normal condition of life. And we end on this really super sobering note as David is longing for his son Absalom after years of what happened with Tamar and Amnon, and then now even more years of being separated from Absalom. David longs to see his son, but here's what we find. That love alone is not enough to bring him back. You might say, Justin, why are you saying it like that? Like, why are you bringing that up and saying that love alone is not enough to bring him back? And here's the reality of why I'm telling you that. I think there are many parents today who love their children so much, and they think that if they just continue to love their children, they're going to bring their child back. But here's the truth. The reason Absalom was gone to begin with is not because of a lack of love. How about I say it that way? That's a good way to say it. Yeah, it's not a lack of love that caused Absalom to go. It was a lack of leadership from David. It was David not doing the right thing. You're better off to do the right thing, even if you're concerned that by doing the right thing that you're going to upset somebody or whatever. It's better off to do the right thing. Honesty is the best policy. Truth is always going to supersede. Your sins are always going to find you out. And listen, you can love your children. Honestly, you can love your children right into the grave. And so it's good for us to do the right thing, not just the loving thing. We can do the right thing and the loving thing. There can be truth and mercy at the same time. We can be compassionate in the way that we share the truth and the way that we handle what someone might be doing or what someone has done. We don't always have to be, let me also try to say it this way. Permission doesn't equal love. Sometimes we think that, we have to allow the person that we love to continue to do the thing that they're doing and we can't say anything about it. I just see this so often where parents are so concerned to say what needs to be said to their child because they're concerned their child is going to get so upset and they're going to do X, Y, Z, whatever that is. They're going to go further. They're going to run off. They're never going to hear them again and whatever. But the truth of the matter is that you're better off to do the right thing. Here's what the Bible says. Speak the truth in love. That's a great way to do it. There's both. You can be loving and speak the truth. And I believe that the heart of that will resonate. Now, there might be somebody that gets upset. Your child might be upset, or maybe your spouse or whoever else you're thinking about as I'm saying that. They might get upset in the moment. But in the long run, in the end, it's better to cut that shadow of sin off. Make that shadow way shorter by doing what is right rather than just doing what you think you need to do because you love someone so much. I hope that made sense the way I'm saying that. Love without truth leads to longing, not healing. Sin must be confronted before restoration can be experienced. So I think if I had to put today's message into a capsule, if I had to put it into something, here's what I would say. I would say it's really a matter of don't wait. Don't wait to seek the healing that needs to happen. Don't wait to seek justice through the right means, through the right channels. Don't hesitate to repent. Don't wait to repent. And listen, if you need to speak the truth to somebody, if you need to speak what needs to happen to someone that you love, maybe somebody in your church or somebody in your family, whatever. I use the example of a father and a son because of the text today, but I'm sure you could find lots of application in that. My point would be not to wait. I'm trying to think of how the quote went, but I remember hearing a quote one time that said, anger that's buried alive is buried fertile. I think that's how the saying went. Anger that's buried alive is buried in fertile soil or something like that, or as a fertile seed. Man, it's such a true thought. Don't think that if you're just being silent about your anger, it's going to go away. It's not. It's going to multiply. Don't think that if you're being silent about your sin, that it's just going to go away. It's not. It's just going to be multiplied. The true healing happens when we'll be honest with ourselves, when we'll be honest with the Lord. Maybe that's just a whole word for you right there. Maybe it's time to, first of all, just get honest with the Lord. Really lay out to the Lord what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's going on in your head. It's not like the Lord doesn't know anyways. Many times I've found that when I get in prayer about something, if I'm off a little bit and then I get in prayer and I try to say it to the Lord, then the conviction sets in and it's like, oof, that thing that you really shouldn't say, and yet you'll say it to other people. Maybe you'll say it in your head, you'll repeat it in your head, but then if you get alone with the Lord and you go to say that, you'll go, ooh, I shouldn't be saying that. I shouldn't do that. So get alone with the Lord. Don't wait to make this right. All right, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll come back tomorrow for more of 2 Samuel. We'll be in chapter 14, and I'll see you then.